Hello, ladies and gentlemen. As with you always, this is Max going to do a live video today on BSV and QNT. Let's read the comments. Thank you for being here. Please smash the like. You know how it goes. Helps get the broadcast out to a broader base. Let's start off with the first comment from the day. For the day, where you want to call it. Can't talk tonight. I don't know what's wrong with me. Anyway. From Tim Shea, who sprays from far away. Good to see you, Mr. Tim Shea, Mayor Crypto Commissioner, representing the 589 district of the XRP Army and his fellow constituents. That's right, Tim Shea. Good to see you, man. We have a thing to share from Tim Shea. It's going to start off the night with regards to the IRS. It's actually some good news, right? Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. You have to wait and see. Anyway. But yeah, glad to have you here, Tim. Brittany's also in the house. She says, happy Wednesday. Good to see Ms. Brittany in the house. I think we got a few more to get into. And we also got Richie Rich is in the house. He says, happy Wednesday, Tim and Brittany and others, and of course me. Thank you so much, Richie Rich. Welcome back. Boom. Gerald is in the house. Boom. Well, hello all. Just another day in paradise. Where would be paradise? Would it be paradise? What is it? I can't remember that old movie. Is it Paradise, Michigan or Pennsylvania? Oh, that's got me wondering. Sean Cusack. Anyway. All right, let's see here. Mr. Squid is in the house. He said, what up? Maximus Crypto, what up? Just to give you guys a heads up, when Edward Vincent, aka Squidward, says goodbye, he don't say goodbye. He says holla holla. Yeah, I had to learn that, which is okay. But good to see it. All right. Tim Shays, welcome everybody. Yamaha Pacifica's back. I haven't seen you for a while. Welcome back. Just gonna welcome a few more of you guys, but good to see you. Yamaha Pacifica. All right, Crypto Homes 777 is in the house. Welcome back. Dennis Lil is in the house. Welcome back. Brian Dowie. Yes, good to see old Brian Dowie in the house. And Mark states, and by the way, welcome. If COPA rejects Dr. Wright's proposal, the world will know their true intentions aren't for the good of crypto and patents. They ultimately want to steal the ticker Bitcoin for good. CSW will win. Yes. You know, I still kind of miss calling it COPA. You know, like an old 1920s, 30s gangster, you know. Ma, she COPA? Ma, you know. Big Alphonse Capone, she? Ma. Come on. You know you like the voice. You know, those old cartoons too. Anyway. Junior says, question, what will it take to move QNT? How about this? Watch the segment, draw your own conclusion. You know, I've gotten some criticism on the X platform, apparently, saying all you do is tie in things with XRP, JASMY, and all this other stuff with Blackrock for views. At least I try to back it up with some evidence, with some research. You know, at the end of the day, I can always tell who it is on, even on YouTube videos, and especially on X, like who just sees the thumbnail and they don't watch the material. I can see that a mile away every single time. You know, it's just, you can always tell who is even taking the time out of their day to view the material. And you'd be surprised. I guess I can apply that also to some of my former students, you know, because that's how it was also with some of them. I like some of those guys, but I hate to say it, they had failing grades. And it was reflective upon their effort to view the material and listen to the lecture. I'll say I'm lecturing you guys, but anyway. All right, Luis, welcome back. I haven't seen you in a while either. Welcome back to Luis. Good to see you. Good to see you. Cool Cat Crypto's in the house. Yes, good to see Triple C. SPL says, sup, homie. Always look good with that picture of you and your beloved at the Padres game. I think that's the Padres game. Well, you're wearing a Padres outfit. It could be, could be a different type of stadium. You never know. Jim Miller, welcome. Glad to have you back. Let's just welcome a couple more of you guys. Let's see here. Shill bro. What am I shilling? I don't know what I'm shilling, but I think that might be a first or second. That's okay. Welcome to Sugarito. Welcome back to XXI Gaming. Always appreciate you being here. And let's welcome one more person, and that would be Juan Flores says Quant. All right. we're going to actually start things off with Quant. Shout out to the one and only Quant Papa. But actually, before we get into it, I did forget. Tim Shea, sideline report. Let's start this off because this applies to everything. Everything. So, what does Mr. Tim Shea have for us? Well, for one, if you want to be a sideline reporter too, it's free. It don't cost you anything. Give me a follow over on X. You can send me a tag or a DM. Okay. Here's what Tim has. And let's just pull this up. So, Tim, share this with me today. And what is this all about? Well, basically speaking, Treasury and IRS announce that businesses do not have to report certain transactions involving digital assets until regulations are issued. When was that published? January 16th. So in reality, what is that? Like not even a week ago? About a week ago. Apologize. Goes on to say Treasury Department Internal Revenue Service on the 16th issued an announcement informing businesses that they do not have to report the receipt of digital assets the same way as they report the receipt of cash until Treasury and IRS issues regulations. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act advised the rules that require taxpayers that are engaged in a trade or business to report receiving cash of more than $10,000 by considering digital assets to be just that, cash. They have an announcement. There's a PDF. Provides transitional guidance as Treasury and IRS implements the new provisions. So there's this whole thing about it, right? And then this other part says it does not affect the rules in effect currently before the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act for cash received in the course of a trade, a business, which must be reported in Form 8300, or this other one, which is for cash payments over $10,000 that's received in a trade or business. So that's interesting, because every now and then things like this get brought up, right? Right. All right. Well, thanks to Tim Shea for that. We are now going to jump into the Q&T segment. And, we've seen enough of these videos, so I don't need to replay it again. If you guys want to see it, you can look it up for yourself. How many times have we seen Mr. Larry Fink talk about tokenization, and especially about tokenization of assets? It would be in the best interest of somebody like him. Sorry, I'm just pulling up this branding. Somebody like, Larry Fink, to choose wisely the platform he's going to go with when he talks about tokenization of assets, especially since BlackRock is the world's largest asset custodian. I don't know if they really want to admit that, but they are. So, do we have something solid? Yes. Quant Papa really went above and beyond in that regard. And also, I'm not, again, trying to do the crypto Hulk thing, but I did think it was really amazing that Quant Papa did provide us a unlisted link to a video. Yes, unlisted. You guys apparently get to see it here first. Maybe there's somebody else out there, possibly Tokenizer, somebody like that probably would have had this. I don't know. But other than that, I have not seen it. So, yes, you're in for a real treat watching on the live. You guys know how it goes. If you don't watch it on live, you can see the replay, and it will also be chopped up. So let's start off with some particular screenshots from the PDF. And actually, I'll start things off with the PDF real quick, just to kind of give you guys a heads up on that. If you want the PDF, I'm going to give you guys, for instance, a link to that. Give me just a second. So the actual PDF in itself can be downloaded. And here is the link address. Yes, let's just pull that up real quick. I'll drop it into the comments for you guys on the live stream on StreamYard, which will send it over, I think, to both YouTube and X, but at least YouTube. Here it is. And that's a Discord link, so you will need to have Discord. And I see that got kind of chopped up on the link, so apologize for that. But nonetheless, it's called IA Webinar Digital Money January 18th, 2024 report. That's what it is. Okay, so let's look at this for a second. And now I'm going to pull it up on my screen and share the whole screen with you, because otherwise you're not going to be able to really view it. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, lots of windows, I know, just bear with me for a second. All right, so this is the actual PDF that I was talking about, right? So I'm not going to go through all of this because it's going to take all night long. I don't want to do that. But the main thing for you should be is basically, like it says, tokenization, the next generation for markets. Larry Fink, CEO, BlackRock. And some people could say, well, this is just Quant pulling up basically what? Pulling up a quote. Anybody could pull up a quote, and I would agree with you. Yes, I would agree with you. So do we actually have more than just this? Well, of course. I'm not going to just leave you with just only that. There's no way I would do that. That would be silly. Well, look at this for a second. Now we're going to share it a different way and give you some actual cut out slides, videos here soon, the whole shebang. The whole shebang. Okay. So look at this again, just in case you're tuning in. And now we're going to take you to the next part, because look at this for a second, also taken from the PDF. And it says the opportunity with new technology, we can simplify distribution, operations, and of course, servicing, straight from that particular PDF. Is this a nothing burger? No way. Is Gilbert Verding going to elaborate on this here soon? You better believe it. So when we zoom in a little bit more, I'm going to come out of the frame for a second because I want to draw emphasis on this. You will see some interesting things. Let's go ahead and take off some of that branding so you can really, really see it. So number one, what do we really have here? Well, puts a lot of highlight and emphasis on, for instance, the participants, alternative asset managers, and of course, just that, wealth managers, and the one on the bottom left, asset servicing firms. Has this whole breakdown of basically how, the overledger works, distribution, going over to the servicing area, access to new investors, capital, increased liquidity, operational efficiencies. Has sources on the bottom, very familiar, right? But on the very, very bottom, which is kind of hard to see, and I'll just read it to you because it's in gray, it says digital money, a discussion with investment association members from January 18th, as in this year, 2024, and then look what's also cited, Gilbert Verding. Now, before we give you the actual video, here's another few key highlights. The Asset Manager's Challenge, like it says, is complicated. There's a whole breakdown of how it all works. But for your takeaway, before we get into the video, if you're the type who is taking notes, focus on alternative asset managers, wealth managers, and of course, asset servicing firms. Getting into the next part of this, understand what Quant has recently accomplished, what they recently put out, and that basically is what? It is this whole emphasis on smart contract audits. It's one of their key premier functionalities, products, if you will, of their consortium, if you want to call that, of different products that Quant Network offers. So for one, there's Authorized that we know of. There's the other one that we just talked about, I believe, with you guys not that long ago, which was called Make. So there's quite a few different ones. But this key highlight, real quick, smart contract development. We, as in the Quant Network, used our QRC20 token smart contract specification as a baseline. The smart contract was fully customized based on requirements for the project and together with Bank of England, the Bank of International Settlements, and other partners, we identified the necessary features for CBDC. Using this information, we developed and designed an advanced smart contract fulfilling 4 main component requirements. Well, what would that really be? Well, that's what we're going to do now. We're going to now take you over to the highlight of the night. And again, I'm going to come out of the frame on this one. So what you're going to see here is a real treat for most of you. So this thing only has 84 subs. That's not the point. The point is it's not really used to be like, having to retail people up in air. IA webinar, which form of digital money will power future markets. This was shared 2 days ago. Okay, notice it's unlisted. Again, maybe somebody like Tokenizer, somebody like that might have shared it. I don't know. That's not the point. The point is what is mentioned here. I'm not going to play the whole thing, okay? But I'm going to share the key areas from Mr. Gilbert Verdian, and we're going to get into a lot of this. There's so much to get into in regards to this. And even on this part, see where I'm highlighting? Again, he's going to talk about some of the stuff in regards to, what Larry Fink says, yada, yada. So there's going to be times in which we take some pauses because this is a lot to get into. We also have some BSV to get into tonight as well. So let's go ahead and play this. Thank you so much for being here. If you appreciate the content, please smash the like. Let's go from speculation to confirmation. Here we go.
A very good afternoon, everybody, and a warm welcome to the Investment Association this afternoon. So today we're going to be exploring the future of digital money, payments and settlement, and how all of that interacts with the tokenized financial services markets of the future, something that we have been working with members for some time now as we consider our Investment Fund 3.0 agenda, which aims to ensure that investors are served by the most efficient fund vehicles possible in these very innovative times. Now, the coldness in the air reminds me today, by contrast, of the extremely hot day in summer 2022, when we had to move a planned in-person blockchain event to a remote-only affair due to the extreme heat. Do you remember that day? It was about 40 degrees, which seems such a long way away from where we are now. It's just about freezing where I am now, but I'm sure that some of you are in even colder places. Please do drop a note in the chat if you can beat that temperature. We'd certainly love to know where you're tuning in from today. Nevertheless, a very warm welcome to you all, and to our guest presenter today, Gilbert Verdian, who is the founder and the CEO of Quant, who are an IA engine member and a tech firm who seeks to provide solutions to unlock the power of blockchain for everyone. Gilbert himself has a wealth of experience in financial services, in blockchain technology, and has also served in the public sector at Number 10, at the Treasury, and has worked closely with the Bank of International Settlements and the Bank of England on some very interesting projects, which I'm sure we're going to be hearing about today. Now, just before I hand over, there are a few housekeeping points to cover. Please do use the chat function to pose any questions you'd like us to cover. Also, please join us next week for our webinar on EU digital files that affect the investment management sector. That webinar is with James King on Thursday and continues to showcase the work of the IA's Innovation and Operations Unit, where we focus on policy matters relating to tokenization, generative AI, and other innovative technology. With that, though, Gilbert, I'll hand over to you to take us through the world of digital money and the interplay with tokenization.
Many thanks, John, and a big thank you to the IA for the opportunity to speak to all the members around this quite exciting space around tokenization of money, central bank digital currencies. So if we can go to the next slide, I'd like to just open with just blockchain in general. It's been a buzzword for many years. It's been around for quite a long time. I mean, personally, I came across blockchain during my time in the Treasury during the financial crisis. So it was 2009, very early on. And we looked at it as a policy perspective quite early as a country. But the technology and the whole market was too early to understand what it can potentially do. But fast forward to 2024, this is institutional. So if you look at quotes from institutions like Schroders and Blackrock, it is a fundamental change within financial services. And one of these changes happen, they can only happen every 30 years. It's a cycle we're in. So what we're seeing today is really quite transformative. And the quotes from leaders within asset management and financial institutions show the interest in this space. So with that, if we go to the next slide, please. Let's start with money. We're going to cover a bit on assets themselves, and then we're going to also cover money, and then how they interlink and how they're interdependent. So if you look at the money tree, the money flower, this was developed by the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements. Back in 2017, they were looking at the current form of money, how it actually fits together, how it's interrelated, and you've got things in there like cash, but then how can you overlay new forms of money within the existing system? So a lot of the concepts of blockchain are not around complete disruption of the financial system as it's set out with the thinking back in the 2008-2009 era. What blockchain does, it fits and it complements what we've got within the financial services industry in the whole system, but it also allows it to evolve. So if you look at money, there's room for electronic money within the whole system today. This is where they came up with central bank digital currencies, retail, wholesale, electronic money itself, and how it all fits together. So this is a paper that was published in 2017, and we could share the links if you're interested in reading this. It's called The Taxonomy of Money. So if we go to the next slide, now where we've come to, so this is some more modern thinking. It's a modern take on money. And this was a slide done last year as a paper by Deutsche Bank. And this is really around how money as a unit of account, a medium of exchange, and a store of value, how a digital form of money can work within the system. So if you focus on the left, which is the regulated side, and the modern take of money can be split into public, which is where central bank liabilities exist, or you can have private, where they're issued by commercial banks and electronic money institutions. So if you focus a bit further down, then you can see there's wholesale and retail versions of this, and what that means is these are ripe for digital money for us. So what is digital money? So if you think about the money flower earlier, money itself is not digital, although we all have digital bank accounts and we use smart devices to access our own money and institutions. That money is electronic. So it only has a particular function. It's very binary. It's a push or a pull. But what a new form of money, an evolution of money looks like, is a digital form where you can do a bit more than a push or a pull. And this is where central bank digital currencies come in. This is where tokenized bank liabilities come in on the retail and on the wholesale side. So if you look at what's ripe for an application of digital money, you can see the red and the blue boxes. Wholesale central bank digital currencies, tokenized deposits, retail central bank digital currencies, and tokenized money. This is really the cutting edge of where money is evolving to, and what this means for financial institutions as a whole. So with that, I'd like to talk a little bit about our work with the Bank of England and the BIS on a project recently. We started this work back in June. It's called Project Rosalind, and this was really an initiative. Next slide, thank you. So this was really an initiative on answering the question, what is so different about digital money? I mean, we all have money today. Why do we need it? How does a central bank offer digital money, as in a central bank digital currency? And what does it look like for the ecosystem? So the project kicked off in June, and it's been ongoing since then, and there's other phases that are continuing to work. So it's a very collaborative central bank with industry partnership. There's a lot of work that's been done on the back end, but there's a lot of work that's been done by the industry to test a lot of this thinking. If you could go to the next slide, please. So Project Rosalind was really set out to design what a digital form of money can look like, and what does it mean in reality within the financial system. So the mandate was to allow functionality on how institutions, banks, fintechs, how they can actually access central bank money. How would it work? How do you have digital money, as in a central bank digital currency, working with a normal pound? Or how do you have it working with tokenized money? So the interoperability, which is very core to us as a company, is very important to this. There's no worse experience for an end user when they want to pay with something and it's not accepted. Money has to be interoperable, and it has to be, being digital, it has to roam, it has to be global. And then from an ecosystem perspective, how do you provide an ecosystem around a new form of digital money that every participant, there could be a fintech, there could be a PISP, sorry, there could be a bank, there could be an institution, has access to central bank money to create new forms of products, new goods, settlement systems, whatever they're doing around services around that new form of money. So we started this work, and what we did was really built out the whole back-end infrastructure. We built out the technology stack to work on as a base. But then we started looking at the use cases, and the use cases were around payments, really new forms of payments, workflows, how you can automate a whole bunch of complex things. But it was all around getting the industry to come up with the use cases. So it was a very aggressive timelined project. We worked on workshops every week throughout the whole project over a course of a year. And the industry built some really interesting use cases on top. And so from an outcomes perspective, what we did was we first answered the question, what is so different about this new form of money, about digital money? It could be a CBDC, it could be tokenized money. And what does it mean for the industry? Why should anyone really care about this type of money? So we did that, and there's a report on this which we were happy to share about the outcomes. And we did all these different types of use cases that I'm going to go into in the next slide, please.
Grammarly now uses AI to help you write, not just revise. Type a prompt.
So the lessons learned. So this is what a new infrastructure looks like. It's this, for this example, it's managed by the central bank. The central bank opens up this new form of money to the industry. And the deputy governor said, this is kind of like the App Store. You're opening up this whole platform for the industry to build new types of apps. And no one knew from Apple or from Google what these apps would be able to do when they first came out. But as the market evolved, you have a whole bunch of new, innovative, quite useful applications running on the platform. So what we ended up working on was really answering the technical question, what's so different to this form of money compared to electronic money? And what can the industry do with that? And it really came down to the programmability aspect of it. So in this use case, we created something that's future-proof, it's beneficial, it removes a lot of friction within the existing system around payments, around counterparty risk, settlement, and provides that flexibility for the industry to innovate. So really, for the first time, participants have access to a new form of money. So as a market, we've been very used to faster payments, chaps, everything in wholesale directly with RTGS. But for the first time, the central bank will be able to offer a new form of money for most participants who are regulated to have access to, which is quite exciting. If we go to the next slide, please. And the thing that we really answered was, why is a digital pound or a tokenized bank deposit different to a normal pound? And it really came to a breakthrough that we had within the project. It was really around using the power of blockchain and smart contracts to create a multi-party lock, which is very unique to this form of money. You can't really do that with the existing system and existing forms of money. And that basically means using smart contracts, we were able to do something quite unique where you can have multiple parties coded into money to transact that money and have the ability to authorize, to release, to hit a milestone, and remove that lock on the money itself. So if you look at a simple lock, an issuer locks the fund and then someone unlocks, and that's quite a normal use case you can do today. A two-party lock is really around what we've got, from direct debit, for example, that's quite a normal thing within the system. But this new multi-party lock, it's quite transformational because you can have two parties transacting and deciding on settlement. But within that, you can have the authorization by a third party for the first time. So you could be doing an asset transfer from one party to another. Once all the measures and the controls and all the compliance is met, a third party that you trust can then authorize the release of that fund. So from a counterparty risk perspective, this is quite a unique way to address a lot of risk, but also a unique way to remove a lot of friction within the process and within the system. So this is quite unique, and I'm just going to get into a bit more detail of what that actually means. In the next slide, please. So what does it actually mean in terms of a digital form of money? Well, it means banks, including commercial banks, investment banks, they can actually have programmable money for the first time. And so programmable money is really the enabled version of legacy money to add workflows, complex business processes, logic into the money itself. And this just means, as money is evolving into digital money, we're going to have all the privacy intact. We're going to be able to use this money because it's interconnected and interoperable with the existing system. It's got the flexibility of tokenizing different forms of money, but also working with other forms of money. So you can swap a digital pound with a normal pound or a commercial bank pound. They can all interoperate. And it just means with programmable payments, you can actually, for the first time, automate a very large number of cumbersome and friction within the system into the money itself. So imagine money can do logical things that you couldn't do before, because as I started with earlier, the traditional form of money can just do a push or a pull, but this new form of money, you can actually code logic and you can code complex workflows into the money. And from a process point of view, you can rely on that, which is a game changer compared to how we operate today. So programmable payments are coming, and we answer that question within Project Rosalind. What is so different with this form of money? But in reality, central bank digital currencies are still a long way off. With the timelines that the central banks have set, that's public, like the Bank of England has said, by 2030, the ECB, for example, have a similar timeline, 2027, and other central banks are following that type of timeline. So commercial banks will have programmable payments earlier than central banks with their CBDCs. So we see as an opportunity that they will be operational in the next 2 to 3 years, which is around the corner in financial services. And there's a lot of work being done in the background on this by commercial banks, by consortia, and they're getting ready to be able to serve asset managers, for example, with this new form of money, because you can actually do some really innovative things. Next slide, please. So what does this mean for asset managers in the UK? The central bank is very likely to release a central bank digital currency, but this goes beyond payments. So commercial banks, as I said, are working on this in the background, so they will release digital pounds slightly earlier than the central bank. But it just means you actually have the ability to use this new form of money to have real-time atomic settlements, domestic or cross-border. It reduces a lot of risk within a transaction, and I'll get into that in a second. You have a single source of truth. With the innovative lock system that I mentioned, you're able to program things to release only if conditions are met, and that can be implemented in the money itself. So operationally, it's quite powerful for a post-trade process or a workflow. And you're accessing new types of liquidity. So liquidity can be quite siloed. It could be difficult to pull. By having it tokenized, you really have access new forms of money and new forms of investors, because you can create liquidity with illiquid assets, and that could be all tokenized, and you could settle that with tokenized money for the first time. So this is a really innovative way within capital markets to remove a lot of friction by moving things on chain, and going from a digital asset to digital money is really where everyone wants to be. And finally, and we've seen lots of work being done by investment banks in this space, but there's a lot of efficiency and there's a lot of gain to use this type of money coupled with digital assets, because settlement risk goes away, settlement time is reduced, and operational risk is considerably reduced. So that they're seeing the value in this, which is really impactful to running anything in financial services. Next slide, please. So we hear a lot about tokenization. So just want to cover that area of the value chain. As Larry, I think, recently said, I think this was late last year, a year before, sorry, that it's the next generation for markets. So where we're heading is, if you go to the next slide, is the opportunity to tokenize. And what we're seeing is a mass view of banks, asset managers, investment banks as well, to tokenize different forms of assets. And we've seen everything from real estate to commodities, but most importantly within financial markets, the ones, and this is an EY slide, which was from last year, the ones that are really highly considered for tokenization are public funds, private funds, real estate funds, and securities. And we can share this survey which was done, and it really shows the appetite for tokenization. And we're going to dig into that. Why are people tokenizing, and what's the motivation? And it really comes down to the same things as we covered with the money side. It's around accessing new capital, accessing new investors, increasing liquidity. All of a sudden, you've got access to different types of investor class, and you've got different types of liquidity you can use for settlements, and different venues. And that's quite important, because you're no longer limited by having access to the liquidity pools you have today. You've got access to new markets and new pools which you didn't before with this new form of money. And finally, around the efficiencies, it's really becoming more efficient to run a fund using tokenized assets and settle with tokenized money than it is to what we're doing today. And we're seeing value that's been generated, but we're seeing dollars and pounds shown how much savings people can make if you move to this new type of asset class. If you go to the next slide.
Cox Fiber powers one of the most connected stadiums in the world on the biggest game days of the year, connecting 65,000 fans and even more at home when it matters.
And the challenge we're seeing is there is a heavy push to tokenization. But if you look at the buy side, the tokenization market is still quite fragmented. So you've got assets that are siloed. If you're working with a particular bank, they could do the custody themselves, or they could be a third party. You could do self-custody as an asset manager in-house or with a vendor. But then you've got the risk of the settlement side. Where do you settle those digital assets? How do you transact that asset from one fund to another? How do you reconcile all of these with different participants? And it's just really comes down to the lack of interoperability. So what we're seeing is the challenge that we are taking the next step. We are evolving digital assets into traditional assets into digital assets, but we're fragmenting the market in doing so. And we're seeing that that's happening in the cash side as well, in digital money. So it really makes sense to not go down this path and have a fragmented system, but do it as an interoperable system right from the beginning. So we can actually have these assets flow between different participants, different venues, and settle with different types of liquidity as tokenized money. If we could go on the next slide, please. And if you look at your roles as a traditional asset manager, it is quite complicated. It's very complicated. So from a value chain perspective, you have very complex workflows from issuance, from setting up the fund, to serving the fund, to distribution, and all the way from operations to closing the fund, and all those processes that you have to go through, which are heavy, complex, and expensive. So having this as a background picture, is there a way we can actually improve the value chain? Can we reduce cost? Can we create more efficiency? Can we remove risk and the friction? And is there a way we can do this today? And if we go to the next slide. And there is, and it does come back to, using a new form of technology such as blockchain and tokenization. You can actually look at the distribution parts of your value chain. You can look at your operations, and you look at servicing, and you can actually look at improving a lot of those things by using this new form of technology, a digital asset, and then linking it with a digital currency, like a CBDC or a tokenized liability or a tokenized deposit. And really, the optimal solution is to interlink and marry up in your value chain everything that you're doing in these boxes with tokenized money. So it comes back down to the motivation and the drivers from the slide that EY did in the survey. And that is really access to new investors, access to better liquidity, and creating the efficiencies to run funds, and creating the efficiencies to serve your customers around distribution as well. If you go to the next slide. And if we dig and drill down another level, if you look at another view of the value chain, there is an opportunity to look at where you can add value, where you can transform and do things better. And the two candidates that have come up in this slide, so this was from the World Economic Forum, which they did with BCG, and it's around clearing and settlement. So there's a lot of counterparty risk. There's data silos where you've got synchronization issues around data and how they link between different counterparties. There's automation around multi-party workflows, and then there's the counterparty risk. So these things can be addressed, and these issues can be resolved with a new form of asset and a new form of money. And this is what we're seeing with clearing and settlement, and the things that we mentioned with Project Rosalind around the multi-party lock system, giving us programmable payments for the first time, gives us the ability to really focus and solve the pain points that we have in clearing and the pain points that we have in settlement. Next slide, please. And if you step back a level, there's really two ways of doing this. Stuff in the middle, the blue area is where you can actually take the value chain and put it on chain using a blockchain platform for distribution and different channels. But if you look at the whole picture end to end, you can start with tokenization first, and that's a great way to tokenize funds. And we've seen most of the industry start with that, and they are doing that. But it makes sense to do it in an interoperable way rather than making assets fragmented, which I mentioned earlier. Or you can start with tokenized money on the other end, and there's an opportunity for asset managers to ask your banks, we're interested in doing this, can you help create this type of product, or can you help us settle with tokenized money? We think it gives us these opportunities and these efficiencies. And so that's a great way you can actually do both, but depending on your strategy and how you start, that's really up to you. But looking at the value chain, everything from custody to transfer to clearing and then distribution, you can actually put that on chain and gain the efficiencies that the technology and that type of asset brings. Next slide, please. So what do we see as vision? So we really see there's a new market being developed, and it's not just a market of a new asset class. It's a new market of transformed assets into digital assets, but they're tokenized and they're interoperable and they're new instruments. So we're taking what we've got today, evolving them into a digital form, evolving money into a digital form, and that really gives us available 24/7 transacting and trading globally. It gives us great access to liquidity because we've got access to new markets and we've got access to new customers. It removes a lot of the friction and the risk within the transaction itself. So we can automate pre-trade, post-trade, all of those processes into the asset and into the money. And it's cheaper. It's costing us, especially with fund managers looking at bottom line, it's going to cost us less. It's going to allow us to use the programmability to put workflows within the asset itself and do this in real time across any venue. So it's really quite a transformative view of what we've got today. And it's quite a nice evolution because it's complementing what we've already got and the way we're operating today. Next slide.
Every time a sales lead comes in, it's directed from the website to our CRM system through Zen.
So expanding on what Larry said earlier, it's not just tokenizing securities, it's really dramatically changing instruments from one asset class that we have into a better form of that asset. And this time really doesn't happen often. So we're quite excited about this moment. It's taken quite a long time to get here as an industry. It's taken the regulation a long time to catch up with the technology. So for the first time late last year, things were clear. In the UK, we have a clear definition from regulators what we're allowed to do and what we're not, what is regulated and what is not, and then we're seeing that in the US as well, especially with what's happened with ETFs in the last week or so. So regulation is catching up. So in terms of the UK, so next slide. It really is an opportunity for us to take a leadership position in this space. Asset managers are already looking at tokenizing, but it really makes sense to lead together. So instead of just everyone tokenizing individually, tokenizing with particular platforms or particular banks, it makes sense where these new level of asset classes are interoperable and are able to work across any venue, across any bank. So it really makes sense for us to join up and lead together. And this ties in nicely with standardization. And then there's a lot of work being done in the IA standardization forum. So that's been really, really helpful and really positive. But it makes sense for asset managers to talk to your banks and tell them that you're interested to be served with better technology, reducing cost of trade, cost of transactions, cost of operations, and having access to new markets in a regulated way and new liquidity in a regulated way. So for the UK, we could take a lead in programmable payments. We have the industry here and we have all of the expertise and all the history to evolve and lead and show what a next generation financial system can look like. And we have everything at our capability here in the UK. Next slide, please. So how can we help? We've come from financial services. We've been in this space as a member of IA, for example. We're quite involved in numerous things. Please get in touch with us. We're happy to help with some of your thinking. It makes sense with where we are as a market for the industry to standardize together. What we really see is the opportunity to create a UK settlement network. So, please introduce us to your banks. We'd love to talk to them. And coming from a client, this is your need. You want to be able to tokenize assets. You want to be able to settle with tokenized money. It gives you the gains and the operational efficiencies, better liquidity, etc. This makes sense for the UK to establish and there's work being done in this space, but a regulated liability network. So use it. It really makes serving you as a customer a lot easier for the banks, and you get access to new forms of money and new forms of liquidity, new forms of instruments. And if we go to the next slide, please. So what we're providing IA members is, please take a photo and click on the link there to download the Future of Money book that we've published. So this is on the site now. If you're interested in digital assets and tokenized money, at our cost, we'd love to help understand where you are and do a workshop and an assessment for us to help advise where you can evolve to and what benefits you can gain from anything from new revenue, new investors, reducing costs, that type of perspective. So we'd love to be able to do that, for IA members. And if you want to do follow-on work, we're also offering a discount on that, which is great. And then finally, there is an opportunity for right now, if you're very active and you're leading in this space, for IA members to test one of your wholesale use cases or whatever your application you're working on in this space, you can test this with tokenized money. And there's some work being done with the industry right now, where we're looking for participants to come and test how they can actually settle with digital pounds issued by commercial banks in a real world setting. So please get in touch with me. There's a timeline of up until summer to do this. So if your teams are interested to understand how does this whole picture look and what does it mean for you as an asset manager, please get in touch. We'd love to have you involved. And finally, if you have any questions, please reach out. My email is there, and we're more than happy to run workshops, webinars, and help the UK members become world leading in this space. There's quite an opportunity for us. And I think that concludes the presentation.
Fantastic. Thank you, Gilbert.
All right, so why share that whole thing, right? Well, for one, it's unlisted. I don't know if you guys caught the part, like we mentioned before. You can just share it for just a brief moment, just in case you're just tuning in. He did talk about this for a second. Okay, this right here. And basically speaking, I mean, it's all worth pointing out, to say the least. To especially hear GV, Gilbert Verdrian, briefly mention, for instance, Larry Fink, everything that was aligned from earlier, just in case you missed it. I'll just share just a couple things because we don't want to put too much focus on this, especially trying to get into some of the other material. But, asset servicing firms, wealth managers, alternative asset managers, getting more into it. I mean, you just see a lot of examples, right? And basically, there's this as well. So, getting more further into the research, I'm going to give you some notes from the one and only Quant Papa. This part is pretty cool. Let me see if you guys can see the screen, because I'm going through like 10 tabs as we speak, trying to get you guys the right material. So we're going to pull up, this as well. Let me get my bookmark up real quick. Kind of helps with chopping up the videos later on. But basically, there's more to it than just the video, right? We're almost towards the end of this, by the way. So Quant Papa, he wanted us to point out something specific in regards to this. So basically speaking, it's this right here. I meant to have that tab up earlier. My bad. Let's just pull that up before we get more into this whole thing. So Verdian also highlighted this for a brief bit when you guys were watching the big presentation from him and so on. Look what he points to. City, we had connected that before. Digital asset custody, this blue area, right? The market challenge, tokenization market basically is fragmented and asset siloed within the investment bank network, settlement friction, lack of interoperability. We talked all about this, but custodian banks, digital asset custody, custody, Bottom part, asset managers. So why go through all the trouble of referencing, for instance, your Larry Finks, your Blackrocks, and so on? You know, as Cool Cat would say, like, for instance, he always gives praise for BSV, and rightfully so. But it's like, yeah, Larry Fink totally is aware who the real Satoshi is, you know, behind closed doors, maybe due to NDAs and so on. Larry Fink is fully aware of BSV, in my opinion. He's also fully aware of, for instance, Gilbert Verdin and the Quant network and what they're looking to do. How many interviews did we see in the course of, I would say, at least the last year and a half, especially within the last month, right? That Fox Business interview talking specifically about the tokenization of assets. Who better to recognize, hey, what technologies are out there than Larry Fink, who heads up the world's largest, you know, asset custodial service out there, which is BlackRock, 10 trillion in assets. So we talked about Citi before. We talked about, for instance, RLN, right? We talked about JP Morgan, all this stuff, and just see it now being presented, right? Going from speculation to confirmation, seeing it presented from Veridian and those connections that we already have. And oh, by the way, bottom left of the, you know, the slides, January 18th, and have this be what, guys? Non-listed. I mean, you know, here it is once again. Yeah, it's unlisted. Why is it unlisted? Because this guy's probably only sharing it with a few, you know, a few people. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'm getting in trouble with this. I got in trouble once before, but to each his own. I mean, I think, you know, Quant Poppy, he probably has the attitude, he just doesn't give a crap anymore because he lost his X account before. I don't know. But he's getting a little bit more open to what he shares compared to what he doesn't. I have noticed that. Hopefully, I might get him in more trouble. But anyway, the other part we're going to get back into is this. Basically, yes, this whole thing from Engine in the notes for what we have. It's really interesting because, you know, it's like, what is this? Is this just another example of a DLT agnostic API gateway? Well, yeah, you have, for instance, ABRDN, and you got a lot of stuff that's mentioned here. Let's get more into this for a second. So on the screen, you see this one. It's called Engine. It's part of the Investment Association. It says they're partners. They're drawing on a wealth of industry-wide expertise to guide and support fintech firms. Shows their industry partners. Talks about this whole thing of investment management, advisory firms. I mean, again, refer back to what Verdin was sharing. Do we have any good examples of this and so on? Well, yeah. I mean, we can mention BlackRock. You didn't see it on all the slides, but I think one good example that I came to the conclusion of was this right here. And this is literally like what we're talking about before. Is anything specifically spot on with the, I guess you could say, the terminology? And the answer is yes with ABRDN. Getting down to this part, right, where it talks about for people managing their own savings investments. Go down to this part, intermediary for wealth managers, financial advisors managing, saving, or investing on behalf of someone else. International wealth management, institutional, all this stuff. I mean, when you look more into it, you can connect it to what was outlined on these slides. I mean, that's worth pointing out. And on top of it, going back to the whole thing of all these ones that are partnered up with Engine, okay? I mean, a whole slew of them. Citi, like we point out. And there's, for instance, Invesco. There's a lot of top names here. UBS, Consultant Partners. I mean, you could take your own deep dive into this if you want, right? Check this out for a second. Let's take you over to this. So for the most part, most of us know about Overledger. Overledger is the world's first blockchain agnostic API gateway. Interconnects not only blockchains, but also legacy networks to DLT and facilitates the creation of internet scale multi-chain applications. Overledger itself, if you weren't aware of it, is also offered bespoke or as a platform, providing enterprise-grade security, easy-to-use interface that enables users to issue, connect, and monitor assets and develop applications on any blockchain without blockchain expertise. Or you know, by the way, going from 3 lines of code to literally, you don't even need that anymore. You can just focus on building what you need to build. That's game changer stuff. Now, what about this for a second? There is this thing called TIPS, hash link solution. Listen to this for a second. The TIPS hash link solution offers an interoperability model between for instance, a base DLT agnostic application program interface API approach. Again, another example where it doesn't say Quant, but you can get more into this. This is going to be one of the next things I kind of will research a little bit more. I don't want to just do Quant only tonight, but they have this thing here, HTLC lock, primarily used for synchronization with other payment systems. TIPS has functionality, and for instance, Bank of England real-time gross settlement solution. Number 2 is exploring it, or with asset management systems. Well, what system? And what ones we were talking about in the past? You already have the whole thing of what Bank of England selected. They went with the OVN. Check out this for a second. There was, of course, this recording. I'm not going to play this, but TIPS hash link solution. Again, what is cited here is ECB Europa.eu. Talks about the seller, the payee, the buyer, the payee, what it connects, how it all comes together. I mean, all this stuff is verifiable. Even this one. Overledger APIs expand open banking to cover tokenization, programmability, and HTLC transfers for FX and assets. All right, just real quick before we end this segment, because you guys were mentioning this earlier. So this part I thought was interesting, and I'll get into some of the notes from Quant Papa. Why is ETH not ERC20? Just hear this out for a second, because some of you guys knock Quant for being ERC20 token. You're like, all Quant is ERC20 token. And I understand some people have done more research compared to the next guy, so it's not a knock on anybody for not knowing. There's a lot of things I don't know about too, right? On any subject, right? There's not one single person that knows everything, right? We're not know-it-alls, but this is interesting. It says, what's the difference between ETH and ERC20? Listen to this highlight. Ether is the native token used by the Ethereum blockchain and network as an internal payment system. ERC20 is the standard for creating smart contract-enabled fungible tokens to be used in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm going to take you to the next part of why we're mentioning this. It says, is ERC20 the same as ETH network? The blockchain Ethereum has its own cryptocurrency, Ether as an ETH. The Ethereum request for a comment number, which is 20, ERC20, is an implemented standardization proposal for smart contracts. So while they are all related, they are not the same thing. How long ago was that posted? Was that posted back in like 2016, 2018, 2020? No, it wasn't. It was literally posted December 21st, 2023. Interesting. Taking you over to this next part, which is bigger. So apologize for all the slides not being all the same size. Is it better to use wrapped Ethereum on Uniswap? Look at this for a second. Wrapped Ethereum plays a crucial role in decentralized exchanges, right? The DEXs and so on, such as Uniswap, SushiSwap, and even Balancer. I never use Balancer. These platforms primarily use ERC20 tokens for trading, true. And since ETH is not an ERC20 token by default, it cannot be directly traded on these exchanges. Well, then if that's the case, is that why you see a lot of your DEX tools and all these other ones specifically mentioning a pairing with wrapped ETH? I think so. How so? Look at this for a second. Again, apologize for it not being so big. Why does Uniswap use wrapped ETH? Great question. However, during the swap, all ETH is wrapped into wrapped Ethereum. This is because in order for tokens to be swappable on the Uniswap protocol, they must be an ERC20 token. However, ETH was built before ERC20 standard. This is why wrapped Ethereum was created. Not to have a little rainbow show up, the more you know, right? Well, that's the more you know type of moment. Anyway. So, it's like teach his own when it comes to this. According to Quant Papa, I mean, oh, man, there's a lot to get into this. I mean, I think what was the thing that he said, basically? I want to share this because, I mean, he does such great research. But, that one we just showed earlier in regards to, hold on a second, I'm talking about NDAs. I can't mention all this stuff. But that video from Gilbert Verdian, right? Basically, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to get all over the place. It's kind of like he is shilling the RLN. Remember we talked about RLN, and he's doing it to enterprise. but privately speaking, because that was unlisted. And basically the whole video, back to the whole thing with engine, that's why we showed a little snippet. It's kind of like a pitch boasting, hey, here's what we've done with AI engine clients or partners, if you will. This part about the ERC thing, I got the notes on that. Sorry, kind of a little bit back and forth on this tonight. Yeah, did most of us know that ETH token is not technically ERC20? Only the tokens on ETH network are ERC20, but not ETH itself. We just talked about this. Like even Quant Papa didn't even know that, you know, that's basically like a good example of, you know, wrapped Ethereum. So we show, we share some of those examples with you. And it's kind of crazy when you think about it, basically, you know, to do a tax for a specific task on, you know, a decentralized exchange and so on, whether it's Uniswap, some of the other ones, SushiSwap, these specific functions and so on. But I don't know. Maybe you guys don't think it's interesting. Maybe you do. But I want to share this one last thing with you, and then we'll close this out for sure. So I got to get off Discord because otherwise all these things keep popping up. So it's a video. You guys, most of you guys have seen the video before. Some of you have not, and it's okay. I'm going to go ahead and just get to the point with this. So on this one, it is for all the newcomers that have not seen, they have not seen this particular video, okay? And it's just a quick demo, basically. It will show you how quickly, like for instance, if, you know, Ethereum itself went down, what would Quant do? I've been asked that. Well, it's called, they would, you know, quickly do something about that. They would go to another solution. They would go to XDC. They could go to XRPL. Do I have an example? I have an example. So let's go ahead and pull this up on the screen. If I could ever get it to load. There we go. Just accessing off my other hard drive. Okay, so where is this at? There it is. Good stuff. There it is. Here's the demo. Check it out. It's not very long. You'll be glad that you watched this. All right.
Quant's demo application showcases Overledger's API and provides an example of how to build an application with the client side and server side using Overledger 2.0. Overledger 2.0 uses OAuth 2 to authenticate API requests. This token will be used in the authorization header of your API calls to Overledger. The demo application showcases the single transaction and linked transaction features, as well as enabling the creation of subscriptions, which receive status updates about transactions submitted to a DLT via a callback URL. For single transactions, first select a DLT, enter an origin ID, a destination ID, and a destination amount. Once done, click Create. The demo app will show an API output screen to demonstrate the steps that takes place each time an API call is made to Overledger. The API output screen has been slowed down for viewing. Accepting the DLT transaction fee will initiate the signing of the transaction and then execute the transaction through Overledger. The details of the transaction can then be viewed and subscribed to receive status updates to the callback URL. Subscribing to the transaction, Overledger will return a subscription ID, where clicking on transaction details will call the MDAP transaction API to retrieve status updates from Overledger, and clicking on full details will search the DLT for the transaction information. For linked transactions, select the DLT that the initial transaction will be on, and which DLT will have the audit of the transaction. The initial transaction will follow the same flow as the single transaction, and once it has been executed and subscribed to, transaction updates will appear in the subscriptions page. Once the transaction is successful, an audit button will appear on the subscriptions page that will initiate the audit transaction creation flow. On the subscription page, we can also unsubscribe from receiving updates if we wish.
All right. That was just basically for everybody that hasn't seen that. You have to keep in mind that, you know, just like it showed, it uses XRP as an example through the XRPL. So, you know, again, it was just a demo. Obviously, Overledger has gone through massive updates since then. I'd be curious to see what that drop down window would be. I mean, the example that lady used showed like Ethereum, Bitcoin, obviously XRP through the XRPL. But, you know, think about it. I mean, we talk about BSV and so on. Yeah, I mean, that would be great to go with that. Are both companies aware of each other? I don't know. I would assume so, but I can't give you guys that answer. So with that said, that's going to conclude the coverage in regards to Quant for tonight. I know there's a lot to get into. I even mentioned to Mike Cornwell that was going to be a lot to get into. I definitely do think that, yeah, you know, BlackRock went with Quant. I mean, there's enough evidence to support that, but I get it due to NDAs and so on. You can't get the full disclosure in regards to that. But man, say what you want, for that to be mentioned on a slide and inverting, even specifically mentioning Larry Fink, I thought that was very significant to say the least. All right, next up we have up obviously is what you've been waiting for, BSV. I'm just going to check out a few comments, questions, and we're going to get into that here in a second. If BSV is your thing, please smash that like. Please make sure you share the broadcast. We do appreciate it. We have, for instance, 54 likes currently speaking tonight. So thank you for tuning in. And we have some interesting comments here from Mark. We're either going to be millionaires this year or hand resumes at McDonald's. At least we'll get free cheeseburgers. I think there's, again, some good significant money to be made. But if I had to bank on what's going to shine more, I think it's the end of 2025. But that's just me. And I think there's going to be some that obviously will do well for us. We'll take profits and so on. And that's where it's at. Do you want to supersize your fries with that? Apparently they can't say that anymore because that movie that came out, was it the year 99 or 2000, called Super Size Me? That was a good documentary, by the way. Mark, I will work at Arby's and get free t-shirts for the folks here because Maximus has the meats, apparently. That's interesting. Thank you for being here, John Francis. All right. You're pumped up, man. You have the meats, baby. I don't care. Poverty is poverty. All things must pass. And especially when it comes to the roast beef, it's going to, you know, goes in one way. It's going to come out somewhat. Never mind. That sounds bad. They're just winning everybody's meal, right? All right. My Spurs, your Wemby. Yes. Suns playing again tonight. Hopefully they can watch part of it. I don't know. Might not be able to, but, you know, hopefully they go for 7 in a row. All right. We got Henry Brown with $2 super chat. I'm about XRP. Who the heck is 50 Cent? I'm all about $1. Who the 50 Cent? I remember that. That's good stuff. Thank you, Henry Brown, for the $2 super chat. You didn't have to wait too long on that one. And let's read this from Corey Bibe, a.k.a. JASMY, not a scam. Yes. Literally, that's what his name needs to be. Corey Bibe, a.k.a. JASMY, not a scam. Yes. Needs to be a bumper sticker, too. Excuse me. All right. Max, have you heard anything on the JASMY lockup? I heard March, April. I was just curious on how many tokens will be locked. I'm sure this is an ongoing question among holders. We addressed it, like, I think a week or two ago, something like that. It's the same thing that was mentioned before. I know I haven't seen anything significant. I obviously will look into it again, but, you know, as much as people want me to do a video or update every day about the lockup, I mean, that's just not going to happen. That's like me talking about Swift and XRP every day. I mean, some people do that. I'm not going to do it, but no, there's nothing major in that regard. No JASMY content tonight. We'll probably get into some JASMY content tomorrow. I know that's disappointing for some people. Some people actually want me to cover JASMY every single day. I got to cover it every day, almost every other day though. Yeah. Anyway. All right, let's see here. Let's go further down. We also have Din Yu, who's order 66. He says, hey, good to see you, Mr. Din Yu. Din Yu? All right. You got to say it like that. Everybody knows that. You can't just say Dingy. You got to be like Mr. Dingy, aka Din Yu. You got to say it with emphasis. All right. And I think Dingy is your dog, right? Isn't that your dog? All right. You've been through Hamilton. Okay, you guys are having a conversation with the one and only Brian Dowie. That's good. All right, let's go further down. We're going to recognize Henry Brown. Gifted a Maximus Crypto membership. Who is the lucky winner? Well, Let's find out. Is it Mr. Rain? Is he the lucky winner? Is it, I don't know. It's Stargazer. Gifted a membership. Nice. Is he even here tonight? That'd be cool. Very cool. Well, congratulations to Stargazer. All right, Rivers in the house. Hey, peeps, it's a rink night and another gritty game. When you go to these games, River, let me ask you something. Like, do you wear a parka? I never forget how much a noob I was when I went to the Phoenix Coyotes games. The first one I attended, all right, was actually pretty good. My friend's mom, she had not floor seats or anything like this, but she was like 12 rows up from mid-court and on bottom. It was great seats. But man, did I freeze my butt off. I wore a t-shirt. Oh my gosh, big mistake. Biggest mistake. After that, I was like, I went to like maybe 3 or 4 more games, because it gives the hookup. But I know they're now the Arizona Coyotes. But my point is, yeah, it was crazy. It was just, I was like, I'm gonna wear a parka next time. Anyway, it gets cold. All that ice. Even in Phoenix, right? Anyway, all right, let's see here. We got also a $2 super chat from Henry Brown. Thank you so much. Tim Shea, aka, what does it say? Tim Dog, low riding on the West Coast. That would be interesting. All right, Mark. Quant will go to BSV as far as that demo. That'd be cool, huh? That'd be really cool. They all will. Yeah. All right, another one from Henry Brown. Thank you so much for the super chats, man. It means a lot. Yes, sir. Brian Dowie, new freestyle Rap City. Rap City was canceled. How long ago? When was the last time they had Rap City? 2006 or something? I don't know. All right. John Francis. I have 12 Quant Max turned me on last August. Thanks. But it's not financial advice, just sharing information. But anyway, you go, my son. Thank you for that. Also, Vanette, thank you again for the $2 super chat. Thank you. Better than nothing against. Hey, it's even if you only had one, right? All right, let's see here. Mark, John, you will have lots of lady action in the future, my friend. 12 Quant is a lot, lol. Yeah, it's not bad. All right, let's go further down. You guys are having a good conversation among each other. Let's welcome Rain. Hi, guys. Nothing will be clear until 2025 in November. And I love how the comment right after Rain's statement, by the way, welcome, Rain, is Brian Dowie. This tells me that good things are ahead. And no, it does not involve a movement. Okay? All right. Moving along. Crypto Thurl. Do you know about Caspa? Yes, but welcome nonetheless. Glad to have you here. A lot of us are invested into Caspa, and you guys have done well since under 2 cents a penny. I don't know. Let's also welcome April Cornwall. Hey, late, but I'm here. Blah. It's all right. Welcome, April, aka hey. That's funny. Anyway, all right. We're gonna get into the BSV coverage. We gotta do it, otherwise people are gonna leave. Okay. Let's turn on all the good branding once again. It is the BSV segment. Should have had the BSV segment to begin with, Max. Could have went and watched Crypto Hulk cough 1,000 times into the camera and get mad at everybody for gifted memberships from the one and only Elon Muff, his troll account or something like that. I'm kidding. Nothing gets Hulk. All right. Let's get into it for a second. I'm gonna clear out some tabs because it's gonna help me out just for a second. Let's get rid of some of that. That's cool to get an unlisted video. I mean, shout out to Quant Papa, right? Don't really get exclusive stuff here all the time. That's right, Max. All you do is recycle all the other knowledge out there. Well, not really. All right, let's see. There we go. All right. So BSV. Yesterday, Tim Shea pointed this out. Might have been the day before yesterday. I think it was yesterday. I can't remember. I want to share this first. I think also Cool Cat was talking about this. So there is this. Now, I know some of you guys have done really well when it comes to your ordi, right? Ordinals through hate to say it, garbage BTC, right? But keep in mind, is this a real thing? We'll look more into it. Why is Binance showing BSV ordinal price? BSV ordinals? What? Why is it not listed? This coin is not listed on Binance for trade and service. That's kind of interesting. Why is BSV, anything related to BSV, becoming more and more harder to get? I mean, think about it. Doesn't that create a sense of like scarcity? I think it does. The sound of BSV ordinal sounds a lot more interesting than, the one for BTC, right? Yeah, it does. So we'll have to follow, see what's going on with that. I don't have the answer. I don't know what's going on with that. Well, let's take you to now the main highlight of the night. And it is this. And of course, there's other outlets reporting on this as well, and rightfully so. So shout out to them. So I saw this. There's other things to follow other than just X. If you want to also be connected in the know, go to CraigWright.net or go to CraigWright.net/blog, basically. So here's the newest, latest, whatever you want to call it. Dr. Craig Wright issues settlement offer to COPA members and all parties in upcoming intellectual property litigation. When was it posted? It was posted today, January 24th. Wow. Well, when we get into this, and I've already read this over, I came to the conclusion that this is Dr. Craig Wright saying, look, here's how it is. I want to be fair about all this. And at the same time, you guys got 7 days to give me an answer. And I'm going to lay this out. But if you guys give me an answer and you do comply, then you need to back the freaking hell off me. All right. So look what it says here. In February, and this is him speaking. Okay. So I'm just going to state what he's stating. In February, I, as in Craig Wright, am due to face a group of individuals and corporate entities in London's High Court where I intend to uphold my intellectual property rights. Right. Because he's Satoshi in Bitcoin as its creator. However, the focus of my various litigation to date has never been on revealing my pseudonymous identity as Mr. Satoshi Nakamoto, but on mandating that Bitcoin remains faithful to its central principles. They are set out in the Bitcoin white paper today, widely recognized as the authoritative foundation of all forms of Bitcoin. It describes a peer-to-peer cash system. We've all heard this story, right? Electronic peer-to-peer cash system, I should say, focusing on enabling small casual transactions known as micropayments. We've been talking a lot about micropayments lately, especially with what X is going to hopefully give to us, right? Formerly known as Twitter. So it says directly between parties without the need for a financial intermediary. So this right here, even though we were just talking about Quant, and Quant kind of boasts itself as a financial intermediary, right? With the OVN, this is where I don't think I can realistically state, would Quant switch to, for instance, BSV? I mean, maybe that's just an option, but this also tells me that BSV, right, doesn't need Quant, because that's, in my opinion, the proof. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong on that. Goes a little bit more about this. His issuance of copyright claims against the Bitcoin developers was a measure to protect continuity of those principles. If this guy is not Satoshi, you could sure as the hell fool me. He's got everything worded out pretty darn eloquently here. More to this than just this, and we got more tonight than just this. Shout out to Mike Cornwell. He's got some things that he shared with us. To that end, today, he has sent to his opponents in the COPA litigation claim IL-2021, these numbers, I'm not going to say the whole thing. The passing off claims, this other one, and this other one, and database rights claim, that particular one, a non-negotiable offer to settle each of these cases. Notice what it says, non-negotiable, like my way or the highway. Now, some people have been critical of this, even before he dropped this, saying, Well, you have to negotiate a little bit. The hell you have to negotiate a little bit. Think about this for a second. If you know in your heart, and not even in your heart, you just know who you are, right? Like I know who I am. You guys know who you are. Who the heck is going to tell you that you are not who you are, right? So with that said, you will fight to your dying breath to prove your innocence. Any innocent person, right, is going to do that naturally. It's just what innocent people do. So when it says non-negotiable, that also pounds home even that much more to me, at least, that yeah, this guy's not going to give up. Every single thing I've read about Craig Wright, he doesn't just kind of give in. He's not a wuss, right? So it has this part about non-negotiable offer to settle each of these cases, which is reproduced in its entirety below. And there's a little bit more about this. He says the settle offer preserves his objective of maintaining the integrity of the Bitcoin system. Think about this for a second. Because he's going to get into these other ones. BTC, Bitcoin Cash. He's even going to cite Bitcoin ABC, now known as eCash. But he says the settlement offer preserves his objective of maintaining the integrity of the Bitcoin system as it was initially developed. Again, back to this whole notion, is BSV the original Bitcoin? Answer is yes. Can it accomplish the things it needs to do without limits, like such as have scalability and, then some? Yes. And he says basically, while limiting for all parties the needless expense of a lengthy high court trial, which would take our collective focus away from supporting, adopting, and advancing digital currency technologies. Now, I know this is not an XRP segment, but you know what? Do credit where credit's due. It's like suppression. This is the common thing that you should pay attention to when you hold XRP or you hold BSV or you don't hold either one of them. And that is, every single time we see some kind of tech that's going to radically change the social and environmental and financial infrastructures of the world, like the real game changers, when you really look into it, somebody is going after these. So I would say Dr. Craig Wright, Brad Garlinghouse, Russ Ripple, they do share a common thing in that regard. Okay. So, it's the suppression of technology. You think about like with XRP, I think we would have already been to the promised land by now if the SEC didn't go after that. With BSV, could we have been to the promised land already if we didn't have all this quote unquote fake Toshi? This is where we can agree to disagree on that argument. But he says it's not just his own work, but those potential good faith competitors in his legal opponents included, about the collective focus being taken away, right, for the support and adopting of the advancements of digital currency technologies. He says in clear demonstration of the sincerity of his offer, he agrees to waive his database rights and copyrights relating to BTC, BCH, eCash, like I mentioned, databases, and to offer a irrevocable license and perpetuity to his opposing parties who collectively control, operate, and or own those databases in pursuit of encouraging the open commercialization. I think that's how you say it. Commercialization of technologies in a competitive and fair market where intellectual property rights are respected and exploited. I intend for this offer to enable them to compete fairly in parallel with BSV. In layman's terms, you can have this garbage. You can go out and market this garbage. We're going to stick with my original intention of the real, true, chosen one as I written it up in my white paper. Allow me to just go and do what I originally intended to do and let this thing be the greatest thing since sliced bread and then some. That's the way I interpret it. He says he believes the settlement terms are broadly uncontroversial, beneficial to the industry as a whole, and intended to draw a fresh start in the history of Bitcoin to guarantee its success in whatever form it takes. And back to the whole thing about the deadline. All parties now have 7 days from the date of this offer to agree the settlement, or we shall progress to trial. You want to talk about like flipping things around, right? I mean, in my opinion, he did. You know, say what you want. It's like, just doesn't sound like somebody who is in retreat. You know what I mean? I think the ball has been in his court the whole time. I think this is a perfect example of a chess game with a master chess player. I'm just going to throw that out there. All right. Issued by Dr. Craig Wright to all inquiries to this particular one. Settlement claims. You have all these claims. And I'll read just a couple of these. I think the top part. I make the below offer to the opposing parties. Claims, again, back to reference above. Let's go further down. There's something I saw here that really stood out to me. Where is it real quick? Where was that? I had this one that was really good. Oh, yeah, this is good stuff. So look at this. This part about, it was right there in front of me. Duh. Yeah, this one, number 7. Any affiliates, associates, or otherwise shall not pursue and are prevented from pursuing any database rights or copyrights together the rights in relation to BTC, BCH, and ABC databases in opposition, which control, operate, manage, and or own the databases. Are granted irrevocable license, perpetuity to exploit, use, assign, or license those rights for the purpose of exploiting BTC, BCH, or ABC. It's intended by the parties to continue to develop, file, and respect their own patents for the respective projects and to seek to rely on patents and the corresponding laws in the usual way. This part B, opposition, including any affiliates, associates, employees, or otherwise, shall not pursue and are prevented from pursuing any rights in relation to the BSV database. And of course, by signing below, you comply to that. But I don't know. It's we'll have to see what goes on with this. I mean, literally 7 days. I mean, that would be what, guys? The 31st, or maybe the 1st. I mean, I have to keep in mind this is Australia, so it's a lot more further ahead. Or actually, not Australia, it's UK. I don't know. Time difference, right? All right, getting into this next part, I want to share this as well. This is good stuff as well. You have this. Says, to all my lazy-eyed friends, when a group of developers delegates the role in decision-making authority to a single entity, it is by definition centralization. You know, in the comments section of our videos, I think I had a few of you guys talk about this. It says not decentralization. Centralization refers to the consolidation of control and decision-making authority into a single point of entity. In the context of software development, such as a digital currency like Bitcoin, this would mean that the single group or entity would have the predominant influence or control over the development decision-making processes. I want to state this. I don't know if he's getting this from his lawyer, but a lot of times I just feel like this, it's just, he naturally knows this stuff. I mean, I don't look at Dr. Craig Wright as just being like your typical dev. You know what I mean? I look at this guy as like some of you guys have pointed out, I think this is a great thing. I will steal this. This is a good thing. Not really steal it, but you know what I mean? He has mastered his craft. You know, he's a master of basically a blockchain, DLT, and so on. You know, he's not your typical just run-of-the-mill dev who's trying to protect himself. Like Star Wars, right? I mean, you have the Jedi Council, right? He's not just a Jedi master. He's freaking Yoda. You know what I mean? He's the head honcho of it all. It is what it is. I don't know if that's a good analogy. I like it. There's this other part. In contrast, decentralization is characterized by the distribution of control, authority, and decision-making across a diverse and independent set of actors. The case of Bitcoin's original design exemplifies decentralization because its development, maintenance, and decision-making processes involve a broad and distributed network of independent developers, miners, and users. No single entity has overriding control or authority, making the system decentralized. And oh, by the way, how about this? Including who? Including Satoshi Nakamoto, aka Dr. Craig S. Wright. I mean, if you think more about it, yeah, and he would probably even say that. He has said that. few more key tidbits to get into. He says if a single development group, Blockstream or Copa Core, etc., especially one owned by a large corporation like Meta, right, aka Facebook, oh no, were to assume control over Bitcoin, it would represent a significant shift towards centralization. Right. We're trying to get away from that. That's existed for thousands of years. Like, to hell with that, right? Like, we're part of this whole new definitive radical shift of the peasant class, I guess you could say, will emerge instead of how it's always going to the 1%. This centralized control would be antithetical to the foundational principles, of course, of Bitcoin, which were built around the idea of decentralized peer-to-peer network without reliance on any central authority. Very true. There's a lot to be mentioned here. I don't necessarily want to get into all of it, but he, time and time again, just pounds it home. I will read this last part. He says, in essence, the immutable nature of Bitcoin's protocol is a crucial factor in upholding its decentralized structure. It prevents the centralization and power struggles that can arise in more flexible systems, where the rules and protocols are open to modification by a limited number of influential players, or the elites, if you will. You take that power away because of what? How Bitcoin was originally designed to be in the first place. Decentralized. Nothing about it should be centralized. And I have seen comments from a lot of, no offense, I should say no offense at this point, give them an offense, naive people, not saying from our community, but I've seen it, especially on X. And they'll point out, they'll say, this is all a fraud. Craig Wright himself is a proponent of centralization. Are you not researching anything? Are you just a BTC maxi? Because every time I look more into some of these people's profiles, I come to the conclusion that yes, they are BTC maxis. Interesting why they're basically posting this. They will claim that they're all for original Bitcoin, but when you look more into it, they'll keep pounding home the same thing that Michael Saylor is trying to pound home, and that is store of value, store of value, store of value. Are any of them really reading any technical aspect of original Bitcoin white paper? I don't think so. And if anything, if we're trying to envision this dream of scalability of, like it says, a true peer-to-peer decentralized cash payment system, digital cash payment system, then how the heck do you do it with 5 TPS? I still can't, I don't think anybody could wrap their head around that if that's the case. So again, that's not it, but I thought I'd point that out. There's another one. This is retweeted from Mike Cornwall. I like this statement. Funny thing, patents have no link to being Satoshi or not. Right. They don't. But check this out. Copa has just deleted their tweet. Ooh, I wonder why. Well, what happened with Craig Wright's Twitter a few weeks ago? That apparently got deleted. Now it's back. Now Copa's experiencing something. Well, let's point it out. So you have this whole thing here. I'll blow it up a little bit more for you guys. And it states here that just like Craig Wright forges documents, this is crazy, right? Of course, they don't believe he's the real deal. They think he's Fatoshi, but it says, just like Craig Wright forges documents and doesn't quite tell the truth, his description of the settlement offer isn't quite accurate either. Oh boy. The so-called settlement comes with lots of outs that would allow him to go back on his word and sue people all over again. Really? Is that what we have come to? And then this other part. Oh, and force us to accept that he is Satoshi. In case you need any proof, take a look at Copa's latest dissection of Wright's forgeries, including the new documents that he said would win him the case. And of course, if you want to nerd it out, you can look more into this. Expert witnesses for both Copa and Craig Wright, et cetera, has introduced new forensics evidence that definitely proves the inauthenticity of several. Again, look more into it. But this was deleted. Why? Should we look more into it? Well, I think it will come out here soon. But that was interesting. And I guess apparently 6 hours ago, I guess we will look more into it. 6 hours ago, they just reposted something. So let's get into that for a second. So this is straight from them again. And you have this, what's to say? Hard pass on that settlement in 217. So what are they doing? You know, are they getting the green light from their lawyer? You know, not the lawyers, but from the legal team? Oh, you could post this. Oh, don't post this. Well, let's see what, you know, Craig Wright's going to do. I don't know. I really don't know. But you know, this statement here, this has always been about COPA killing Craig's ideas. COPA does not exist to compete, it exists to kill competition. This will now be obvious to the judge. Now, also, I'm a bit shocked COPA jumped on this one so fast, given that this will now, what they'll do to the case. And of course, this is where people are like, Kelvin, come on. You know, you have your BTC maxis coming out. A little bit more about this because it's a hot topic of the night, obviously. This is from Craig Mason. Basically, I don't know who he is, but, you know, a guy who shares some interesting things on X. It says Craig Wright is offering them the world in this deal. Do you agree with that? He's essentially giving them open rights to everything, just like they say they want, and they're going to say no. I reckon the judge is going to have questions. And again, this is like literally, you know, what we showed on the first part of the, if you want to call it presentation, right, tonight. Here's what's highlighted. I shall not pursue and rights, copyrights, use, assign, or license. It's just back to the whole thing of, you know, the terms that he, oh, shoot, I need to zoom in. Again, the terms that he offered to them in regards to the settlement, right? Just highlights. So let's get back to where we were. Excuse me. And this part will wrap it up for the night, I think. Yeah. Along with a cool little t-shirt that you can't win, but, you know, you could go out and buy if you want. But this is, again, from Mike Cornwell. We're going to play this. It's 15 minutes. I did watch it earlier, right before the show is about to start. So shout out to Mike. Like, give me a call like right before the show. I thought, hey, you know, I'm going to include this. So we're going to play just about all of it. Okay. And it says Satoshi's Genesis block, BTC guy, COPA versus Wright trial implications. This is interesting. It is. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Have you seen this video? And if so, please share your thoughts. Let's go ahead and play this. Thank you for being here tonight for this BSV segment. Here we go.
We're going to talk about the opportunity that people have who wrap their...
I wish I could turn up more, but that's the loudest it goes. So you might want to, if you're watching from your TV, just crank up the volume a little bit. If you're using your phone, sorry. Anyway, here we go.
We're going to talk about the opportunity that people have who wrap their head around this information as to what's going on right now in the legal space with Bitcoin and the significance of the Satoshi Genesis wallet acquiring 27 BTC. That's $1.1 million leading up into this trial. All right, you guys, there's just no, it's irrefutable right now that the Satoshi wallet acquired $1.1 million in BTC as of in the last 24 to 48 hours. So that's undeniable. That happened. 27 BTC, 26.9 BTC to be exact. Now, I'm just scrolling through YouTube and Twitter, and I'm like trying to explore like what the BTC people are saying about this. And people who are just, you know, they're promoting Bitcoin. They say, oh, Bitcoin and crypto, or they promote crypto. And one lady here, crypto, what's the channel? So at Crypto Tips on YouTube, I'm just seeing her for the first time. I don't know anything about her. And about 200,000 subscribers. And she says that it was an accident. She believes it was an accident that somebody sent $1.1 million over to the Genesis wallet from Binance. And it was just an accident. Probably involved Blackrock of some kind, some sort of experiment to... Hello? Are you not I mean, miss, you may not be aware that the biggest trial in the history of, definitely in the history of Bitcoin, Okay, but one of the biggest financial trials of all time is coming up in a month. So you're saying that maybe it was just an accident that somebody just accidentally sent $1.1 million to the Genesis wallet, Genesis block address. Listen, this person's probably never going to see this video. And that's an opportunity for anyone who does right now, because let me just give you a background as to really what's happening. I mean, we talked yesterday about how the Genesis wallet can't move the keys because it's the anchor. It's the anchor for the entire, what they call crypto, Bitcoin, everything. It's the anchor for all of this new world, this new financial world. So that Genesis wallet can't move, not because it can't physically or because it's impossible. It's because in a legal sense, it can't move, because it's what's securing the legal element of it not becoming a security. No one is going to move that Genesis block because it's a digital commodity. It's what secures Bitcoin, meaning Bitcoin SV, as the only digital commodity known to man. That's what secures the whole network. So by someone sending or buying, 27 Bitcoin yesterday and sending it to the Genesis block, it's clearly, without a shadow of a doubt, it's involved in this trial. What's going to happen at trial with it is to be unknown. But I'll tell you that there is no accident. This didn't just happen. I don't care how rich you are, Blackrock, even if you're nobody plays around and sends $1 million by accident and just, oops, that doesn't happen. The richer and wealthier you are, the more savvy and highly intelligent and calculated you are. And so accidents on that level, they don't just happen and go to the Genesis block, especially on that amount of 26.9 Bitcoin. There's probably something to do with the numbers. Who people really study numbers. There's probably something to do with those numbers as well. $1.1 million, 1.1 million Bitcoin Satoshi mined. So there's definitely, this is a fact that can't be ignored. And it's leading up into the trial, the significance of it coming up for the people who are wrapping their heads around this in a legal sense. I'll tell you, it looks like, the odds of this court case, if there's odds on this case in Las Vegas or Atlantic City, they just went up tremendously for the Satoshi side, and the Copa side just went down. I would say it's already been over a 51%, odds right now on the Satoshi side, of Satoshi being identified for the right side. Now, but that's definitely going up. I mean, I can't come to exactly the number, but it's definitely gone up over 51%. And just to talk a little bit more about the evidence, because there's clearly paid opposition, and Calvin and another gentleman, Diego, on Twitter, were talking about who's paying, Arthur Van Pelt. And who is Arthur Van Pelt? I really don't even know. He blocks me, blocks everybody I've seen that talks about anything about truth. So, but clearly he's not an attorney, doesn't understand the rules of evidence. And so he's definitely a guy from, what is it? He's Dutch. I think he's Dutch. Anyways, it looks like he's a guy from Europe. Really, that's how silly I am with Europe. I really don't know the countries that well, but it looks like he's Dutch. All right. So if he's Dutch, these guys I'm willing to bet money that he's not just going through thousands of hours of research, okay, in analyzing the evidence in this case, and then going through and doing talks about it on YouTube with that Dr. Bitcoin channel. The amount of time he's spending on it is highly commendable, but that amount of time is he's being retained by somebody. Now, the only thing that's, harming him, or they should have really considered before they retained that guy, whoever did, La Copa side, they should have got somebody who knew about the rules of evidence, because just because these things on the internet and these pieces of paper that they're calling forgeries and fraud, even if they look like fraud, getting that into the court and to meet the rules of evidence, becoming admissible evidence, has to overcome the objections from the other side. So Dr. Wright's attorney, Miss Field, I believe it was, and that team is going to be objecting to most of this evidence. If at trial, if they haven't already started writing their objections, if they're going to be objecting orally, because what is an expert going to do? I mean, think about it. You're going to have an expert's going to come in and analyze, oh yeah, Dr. Wright forged all this stuff and he made up some bad evidence. I mean, unless whatever it becomes admissible that Dr. Wright says he's admitting to, which I would highly doubt that he's going to admit to something that is going to harm him. He's much too calculated for that. So again, this is an unknown part. I mean, there's a wild card here that Wright could all of a sudden admit and throw the whole case. I mean, that's a wild card we don't know about. I just don't believe that's in the possibilities, but it's we got to expect anything could happen. But if he doesn't admit to things, it's going to be extremely hard for them to meet the rules of evidence and getting this stuff in and qualifying it for the court to even determine that, oh, this is a forgery, it's a fraud. No matter how much Arthur Van Pelt and the COPA team think that it's just absolutely wrong and unbelievable allegations, if the 27 Bitcoin were just sent to that Genesis wallet, it looks to me like that's going to be used at trial. And if it's used at trial, that's going to be the other side of the ownership claim, because you've got like 1/10 of the law in the way of those keys in signing would be met. It would be only 1/10 of the ownership claim. 9/10 are going to be for proving the identity himself, that he created Bitcoin, that he actually was the issuer. That's going to be the hard part, is the creation of the issuer. And the easy part, it looks like, from what just happened, because it seems like those are the same keys that he signed with in front of Gavin Andreessen, I believe John Matonis as well. That's the same block. So the easy part will be the possession part, the proof of possession. But that is only a fraction of proving the actual case itself. And that's what the whole people who don't understand rules of evidence have focused on. Oh, we can't meet the possession part, the 1/10. But it looks to me like that's going to be met right there. I mean, this is not a coincidence that's somebody accidentally, to these crypto influencers, crypto tips, and anybody else who's just completely missing this right here, that this trial's coming up and they think that this is just, I guess they're just ignoring it, or they don't understand law well enough to realize the impact of what's at stake. So those who do, are seeing this, they're hopefully you're getting comprehended. You're beginning to comprehend the impact of what this is about. Why I would even spend time to talk about a trial when there's lots of trials going on. There's lots of cases happening all over the world that are big, but this is affecting all of us little people, everyday average people. Okay, just people who are holding BTC or wanting to get in on something that just is hard to get and very rare and very scarce, which is the true, genuine, original Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. If people haven't looked at this, the technical, read into this carefully, I would highly recommend you do so, because this is just one of those things that it's not like that movie. I remember the movie Bitcoin. Calvin Ayre talked about watching it. I absolutely freaking love that movie, dude. It was so funny to watch, and the Sencha craze. I was on the Cliff High mailing list at that time, reading all those Alta reports in 2017 when that came out. And, for whatever reason, I mean, I did invest in a lot of the ICOs at that time, and that mindset at that time where it's like a, taking value mindset as opposed to adding value now today, where like, I just want to add value and give value as much as I possibly can. That time was different, but I didn't invest in the Sentra. Something, writing was on the wall, something about it. It just didn't seem right. So thank God I didn't, because it was a huge scam. And that movie was just the documentary or whatever it was, a movie on Netflix called Bitcoin. And the point is that that's just the opposite of what this is all about. This case is leading into setting precedent to becoming, the genuine authority for what a true digital commodity is, and the one true, call it crypto, the one true money. It's the sovereign money, which is the original Bitcoin protocol that people can actually go to and rely on, and I think that we got to talk more about sovereign money, because There's just so many people who are scared and terrified as to what's going on. We obviously can't rely on, keeping all of our money in like a fiat currency, because it's just, it's obviously we've got tremendous inflation. So we have to be looking outside of that. And if gold and silver are not the only option, what else is there? And we have to be looking at identifying what the risks are, what the upsides are. And people just really I think they just want to have something stable that's not going to just go away tomorrow. Somebody posted a video from a guy called Dan Pena. I don't know who he is, but some rich billionaire guy talking about Bitcoin's going to go to zero when the creator comes out. I don't know if he's meditating and seeing this stuff, but this is maybe a video from like 6 months ago. It was just a short clip, and that's very likely what will happen. That's exactly what we've talked about. BTC. Now again, they call it Bitcoin because this case hasn't been finalized yet. But once it's finalized, it won't be Bitcoin anymore. Okay, so that's really what's at stake. People use the word Bitcoin, they throw it around. That's what Satoshi's so upset about. Okay, the name has been thrown in the mud and trashed as some sort of an illegal investment contract. That wasn't the intent of it at all. It was designed just to be meant for microtransactions and for everyday people to use it on a massive scale, in tiny little ways, fractions of a cent, sending all over the place and becoming that's the whole purpose of it. There's more of it now that's come out. But anyways, it's just, I think people, I hope, can get a grasp for the significance of this case. And, not only the significance of the case, but now also the fact that it's more likely than not that the possession aspect, the 1/10 of the proving the case, is more likely than not to be solved by this 27 Bitcoins coming in. All right. That's 1.1 million. I mean, it's no accident. All right. It is no accident. And if you follow this close enough, just read the stuff, look into it a little bit, you'll see there's no accident. This is all leading up to the biggest case of our time. So this is Gavin Mail. I'm going to do a cool interview on Wednesday with a gentleman from Twitter that I talked about how, on this channel, I said I would have somebody come on. This will be the second guy I'm coming on Twitter that I'm going to just do a talk with and get to know him better. He's actually a music producer, and his name's Larry, produces music, some really incredible, famous artists that he's produced music for. So we're going to break all that down and then do some analysis on a case that he has. I think it's interesting. We're going to go through, and I'm also reaching out to some other guys like Brett and Raphael and some other people just in general I want to talk to, get to know better for sure. Definitely like Jack Lew. And it was awesome meeting with Daniel Kravitz. What a freaking genius that guy is, man. I mean, I really follow and respect what he has to say. So thank you, Daniel. Much love. And I will go ahead and see you guys at the top. It's going to be a great freaking week. This is Gavin Mail.
Okay. Well, thank you so much to the one and only Elon Muff for providing that for us tonight. And before we close it out, I want to share just the last cool little thing, right, before we get back in the comments. So let's pull this up. This is from Satoshi. I retweeted this. I thought it was cool. Anyway, so yeah, let's share this real quick. Here it is. Take a look at that. Yes. Kind of cool, man. Kind of cool. Kind of sad also. We are all Satoshi except for Craig Wright. Or we're all Satoshi. Or we're all, Satoshi Nakamoto except for Craig Wright. Anyway, kind of funny. All right. Actually, before we close it out completely, I got to share my little own 2 cents, right? Could just share just the videos. So, something that I gathered from listening to all of this and also doing some of my own research and, going to that blog posted from Craig Wright in regards to this offer, this particular, settlement offer, right? And that is this, like, what's going to really happen? Like, what would be the outcome of this? What would be the significance of this? Well, there's a few things, basically. So we know that there's going to be a potential resolution possibly coming soon in regards to this topic of the COPA case, right? But basically speaking, I think, are we still on that screen? We're not on that screen. Let me get that off of there. Yeah, basically speaking, you got to keep in mind this specific offer that Craig Wright has made. Well, it could very well bring an end to everything, and it might not, obviously. There's obviously several ongoing legal battles between Dr. Craig Wright, various members of the cryptocurrency community. Does include, like, for instance, obviously COPA, but it would reduce legal costs and uncertainties for all parties involved. I mean, that's kind of a win. There's this whole notion of like open commercialization of the specific technology. You have to keep in mind, if the terms are met, if accepted, the waiver of database rights and copyrights could potentially promote innovation and development with the broader cryptocurrency ecosystem. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, if, like this guy said, if, what's labeled as Bitcoin, currently speaking, as BTC, if that no longer gets that label, then what about promoting innovation through, BSV? That gets the label, not just with us of the BSV army, if you will. It just blankets all Bitcoin like how it's supposed to be. And it would help promote the innovation and development of the broader cryptocurrency ecosystem, as developers would have greater freedom to build upon existing technologies without fear of infringing on Dr. Craig Wright's claims. Very true. There's, of course, market perception of all this. The acceptance of the offer could potentially improve the perception of BSV, true, and even Dr. Craig Wright within the cryptocurrency community, possibly attracting new users and developers to the platform. Basically, what is that? FOMO, to a sense. But you will see a lot of people that were against him or didn't know about Dr. Craig Wright. And if anything, that will get a lot of people who weren't on board for the notion of, hey, this is original Bitcoin. Hey, this is the one that's able to scale, and have people, come on board, right? Join us on the ship. All right. How about this for a second? Is there actually possible more implications in regards to this for us as holders of BSV? There's always going to be, right? So 3 key things I want to get into is increased competition. I mean, even when we talked about Quant, I mean, these guys will never really come out in a minute, but in reality, they're all in competition with each other. Let's just be real about that. But if the offer leads to more open development within the industry, BSV could very well face increased competition, of course, from other cryptocurrencies. This could potentially put downward pressure on the price of BSV. Some people don't want to hear that. Let's just mention it. About a reduced influence of Dr. Craig Wright. If Dr. Craig Wright's claims of database rights and copyrights are deemed invalid, just hear me out. I don't believe this, but if that was to be the case, his influence over the direction of BSV could potentially diminish. This could lead to uncertainty and even internal conflicts, of course, with the BSV community. I don't realistically see that happening. But, of course, people on the other side will say, yeah, that's exactly what they see happening, to each his own. What about a potential for positive settlement? Is that actually like a real thing? Well, a resolution to Dr. Wright's legal disputes and a perception of increased openness with the BSV ecosystem could very well boost performance, or I should say performance, but sentiment, and potentially drive up the price of BSV. That's a win all the way for us as in holders. You got to keep in mind that with that also said, a lot of people are kind of on the fence. Should I jump into this? Should I take a chance? I've seen some people that hold BTC that claim that just BTC or bust are finally realizing, look, why don't I take a chance on this? Yeah, exactly. Why not take a chance on it? Took a chance on a garbage meme token. You're not going to be diversified and take a chance on this. That doesn't mean I tell you guys to go out and dump everything that you're into and just go to BSV only. But I do recognize that you're now seeing instances, examples, and so on, that more and more people are realizing, hey, you know what? I didn't take a chance on this before. Maybe I should take a chance on again. Even some of you guys in the comments right now, or even the other night, saying, hey, this is my second, I get a second chance at Bitcoin at roughly 70 to 80 bucks. Yeah, at Bitcoin. Because at the end of the day, which one would be labeled as actual Bitcoin? Is it going to be BTC? Some people say, well, it's going to still be both. I think the concept of both is coming to an end. When you see this terms and conditions laid out by Dr. Craig Wright, 7 days, that's his way of saying, look, here's the offer. You either choose to accept it, or guess what? You can sink with your ship. And I truly believe that, you know what? That is a reality. That ship that's sinking is BTC. And for all the people who say, well, no, it could very well go over to 100,000. And I'm kind of with that. I think that's still a possibility that we see that maybe one last time. But what happens after that for the long-term future? Is this the reason why these ETFs just don't sound that great? Because it's tied to what? BTC? I don't know. But it does make you wonder, because all the big hoopla for the last 2 or 3 months was these ETFs. Look at what's going on with the overall market. These guys speak in code. I'm going to still say that. I think there's enough evidence to support that. They do speak in code, because why in the world would Larry Fink of BlackRock and some of these other guys keep referring to Bitcoin for cross-border payments? 5 TPS, cross-border payments? There's no way. But BSV sure as the hell can do it. Yeah, because it has the tech for just profound scalability that blows everything out of the water. Everything. All right. With that said, we're going to end the show here in a bit. We're going to read, of course, some comments. I'm double check the other screen. It's just kind of like a little Q&A to see if you guys have anything specific, and then we're going to wrap things up. All right. I see crypto info _ DYOR is in the house. Give him a follow, aka Biz to the Moon, live from the metaverse. Good to see you, man. Thank you for being here. All right. Michael Montclair is in the house. Training for new job. He hasn't been on much. That's all right. Understandable. Are you excited about your new job? That's the main thing. Cool Can't Crypto. He says the 50 Bitcoin originally in the Genesis block is what is known as the Coinbase data of the entire Bitcoin network, secures it, and can never be moved. Excuse me, I didn't want to cough on camera. Let's welcome Justin Caspa. He says just buy Caspa. I like Caspa. All right, let's see here. Mark CSW, as in Craig S. Wright, is Satoshi Nakamoto. Act accordingly and be prudent. Your future generations will look back and ask you what you did in this moment. That sounds like something that Dan Pena would say. Excuse me. All right, let's go further down. We're also going to go to Blackwood. What in the fresh hell am I watching right now? Oh, the guy that the old guy that looks like a surfer, like an old surfer. Probably lives like Malibu or Santa Monica or something like that. Anyway, I think that's what you're talking about. He's a hair smurf. Huh. All right. Justin Caspa says, Yonatan, honestly, I think it's 90% the guy who created BTC. Oh, this is where you guys are having your back and forth conversation. Well, that's okay. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, that's just the way I look at it. I'm with Elon Musk here, Mike Cornwell, scaling into millions and billions. And how about this? Billions to trillions. When I mention trillions, I think people, just regular people, when they hear that, they're like, do you know math? Are you nuts? Think about how many the difference between that is. I mean, 1,000 million makes a billion. 1,000 billion makes a trillion. And it's just like, I don't know if you guys ever seen those things. We talk about scalability. You were seeing like, the examples of numbers put into, not the one that they use, but like there was these packages. I think it was like the USPS when I used to work for them years ago, like 20 years ago. I used to work for post office. They have these examples of packages going from like the example of millions to billions. And it's just like when you see the visuals, so like even trillions, when you see that visual, we just we just kind of nonchalantly throw that around like, oh, trillions. It's like, you ever actually seen the difference, especially when it comes to like, I guess you could say like debt, the US debt. It's crazy. But to put that into the equation of scalability, kind of like what Satoshi was talking about, with block sizes and so on, and going from billions of TPS to trillions, I'm just thinking to myself, is it really necessary to have billions of TPS to trillions? I mean, is it really going to make that much difference? You know what I mean? Well, I like the idea. I mean, I like the idea there's no limitations, because for the people that will say, we're thinking it from, I guess you could say, somewhat of a narrow point of view. I don't mean that disrespectfully speaking. Like, we're looking at like, well, how's it affect just you and I? We're talking about if we could reach the scale of worldwide recognition finally with crypto and this whole bigger picture, blockchain, DLT, where we finally go from like 5% US adoption to like literally 50, 60, 75%. Do you really want something that's limited on TPS, or do you want something which, does have that capability? That way, if it becomes too saturated or too many people on the network, I mean, again, guys, apply to like your Netflix, if you will. Remember, do you guys remember this? I'm sure you do. The height of the pandemic. I experienced it myself. Everybody's at home, and what does my local internet service provider say? Oh, the reason why everything's so laggy for you right now, it's not our fault, right? Oh, of course not. Could never be their fault. The problem is everybody doesn't have a job right now, and everybody's at home, and there's a horrible thing out there, this Rona, shame on her, and everybody's at home, so everybody's watching Netflix, and that's why you have this problem with the throttling and all that. And please. So my thing is this: if you can imagine that problem, now apply that to, for instance, blockchain and so on. So yeah, I do like the idea that we're going to go from millions to billions and billions to trillions on TPS for BSV. And nobody out there comes even close. The only thing I could think of that comes close to that, and we have talked about it, is the GL1, the global layer 1 that's connected with Quant and all the big financial institutions. That's the only other thing. And even with that, no mention of billions, right, guys? That's in the millions, which, don't get me wrong, that's still impressive. But again, BSV blows that out of the water. So, I literally have thought about this, and it's like this, all right? I'm not going to try to keep the show going, but for me, I think I have a new, I'm not going to name the exact top 10, but close to it, okay? So I'm still sticking with, for instance, my XRP and QNT is almost always tied. And believe it or not, it's no longer XLM is my number 2. Remember how I always said XLM was my number 2? I'm actually going to go with BSV as my number 2. Because I've researched enough of this along with you guys, and I have been on the other side like, I don't know. But everything we've been learning just simply makes too much sense. You can't dismiss it anymore. You just can't dismiss this anymore. So I'm going to BSV is like probably number 2. Some of you guys are going to be like, for you, I understand for you guys it's number 1. Why is it not my number 1? Because I also understand it's this trust thing. Get over that hump. I'm looking at it from like the perspective of like which one will come out to be first in the bull run. I'm kind of leaning more towards those other 2, just being honest. But come on, guys, BSV, when I first heard about it, was like in my top 20. So this is a big move up that ladder, if you will, for me personally. Don't shoot the messenger. We all have different ones we think are amazing. So that's why I'm looking at. Like BSV is probably like number 2. I'm gonna go with Stellar with number 3. I'm gonna go with believe it or not, still JASMY, because the potential with that is number 4. I'm gonna go with HBAR with number 5. XDC probably number 6. Algo like 7. Maybe number 8. I'm gonna go with number 8. I don't know. Maybe LCX, because want to know something? LCX moved up in my portfolio to my top 5, and it was like my top 20. I'm just talking about as far as gains. Okay. I'm probably gonna have to put Filecoin, maybe number 9, number 10. But some of you guys have different ones, that I'm not in, that you're in, vice versa. But that's where it's at. BSV has dramatically moved up on my list of You know, when we talk about which one am I DCAing into that I need to basically often, whether it's just one BSV or two BSV, or we talk about Quant, like one or two. It needs to be, I purchase at least one Quant per month, one BSV per month. That's me. It's not financial advice. Please do whatever you got to do. We all have different, budgets. We make different amounts of income. It's not a, it's not a pissing contest, as the saying goes. So that's just one way of looking at it. I mean, I think Cool Cat has even mentioned, it's like you could own one BSV, and if you hold it long enough, it can be life changing. Same with Quant, even XRP. And I know a lot of people flood XRP, but I think Mark or somebody else made a comment earlier that basically it's like this. Look at the ones where the government or the SEC or whoever it is, COPA, you name it. Look at the ones that they go after. COPA after BSV, SEC after XRP. There's value there. Why are they going after it? Oh, it's because they have our best interest in heart. Bullcrap. They don't have our best interest in heart. They have their Wall Street bigwigs' best interest at heart and so on. It's a threat to the traditional system. We know this. We research this, and that's just the bottom line. Look more into BSV. It's becoming more and more harder to get on exchanges. And if anything, trying to drive you out of what cold storage you have it in, right? Like I have Decent. I don't have it on Decent, but I'm just saying, like, I have Decent. I was looking forward to putting BSV on my Decent wallet. Can't apparently do that because dropping support. That's another example. So if it makes it that much harder, why? You know what I mean? And even the example in regards to BSV ordinals, what's up with that with Binance? Why is that going on? So there's so many examples of scarcity and making things harder. I mean, just kind of like the whole concept of gems. If you think about like real gems and diamonds and stuff like that, they're hard to find. And it's, you got to go through a whole process to find these things, like scarcity. Well, should we apply that to blockchain and DLT? Yeah, I think we are. And that's why we call it gems. So enough talking about all this stuff, right? So let's just read a few more. Dennis Little says at 9:15, sorry about the delay, is someone behind the scenes brokering a peace deal. BSV has the best tech. I'm glad you recognize that. And there needs to be a way to make sure no more future Bitcoin forks. I smell a deal was made behind the doors. I think, if anything, this also, how should I say this? I think that was actually part of the whole agreement or the settlement terms that Craig Wright sent out, because it basically says back off of BSV, and the only person I guess you could say that would be able to make that decision would be Craig Wright. And do you see multiple forks of BSV? No, you don't see that. HODL is the model. All right, let's see here. Do we have anything else here? Elon Musk, did Craig Wright successfully trick Gavin Anderson, John Matonis, potato, convince his own family and colleagues to lie under oath and manage to evade exposure by Satoshi for a decade? You guys had your back and forth conversation. I think you're spot on when it comes to this. Yes, those witnesses. I mean, I think you guys are right. If they're lying, especially under penalty of perjury and so on, they'd be looking at like 7 years plus in prison. They have families, right? I don't have a family, but like if I did, I wouldn't want to jeopardize that, right? So there you go. All right, let's see what else we got here. River has update in regards to his son's hockey team. His son's team is getting a whooping. That's not good. Well, at least you're there to support him. I mean, you're there all the time. That's so cool. You must be an awesome dad. Well, shout out to River. And River, is this the logo of your son's team? You'll never tell us the whole thing with it. It's a cool looking avatar. It's obviously from some kind of comic or something. So, all right. Let's welcome Sam. I don't know if you're waving or just saying goodbye. I don't know. And what else we got? Smash that like. Yes, thank you from Biz to the moon, not for the metaverse. All right. I think we're about to wrap it up. Selma Foot is in the house. Says, what's up, Max? 925. I don't know if you're still here, but thank you for being here, Selma. BSV can scale to 100 trillion TPS. Yeah, that's what something. Yeah, that's what Satoshi was mentioning. So it's just, I can't even fathom that. I really can't. When I think of I think of like light speed or something, you know? It's just that's crazy. All right, Mark always has breaking news. I remember the one from a few days ago. You were saying something like, nuclear holocaust is about to happen. LOL. I'm like, there's no LOL about that. Breaking. Apparently, CZ from Binance is trying to get into Dubai for the 4th time. LOL to escape what's coming to him. Oh, God. Poor CZ. Yeah, right. Yeah, poor CZ. That's like saying poor scam Bakeman fraud. There's a very interesting picture that Mike Cornwell has shared. As a scam Bateman fraud in his prison cell, and he's like sitting on top of his bed, and he's looking at a picture of Caroline, and then he has like Mr. Wonderful in the background. It's so bad. It's so disgusting. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Anyway. All right, let's see here. Mark, it's funny because CZ was saying Craig is a fraud, and now the U.S. government is after CZ. That's a good point. Sam, I heard that since CZ pleaded guilty, Binance is now legally owned by the U.S. government. Think about how the U.S. government seizes so many things. You know what I mean? Like the U.S. government in itself owns a good portion of Bitcoin, or BTC, I should say. Did I read this one? Blackwood, I hold BSV and QNT, but not enough of either. Found out late and playing catch up. That's all right. I wish I could own a heck of a lot more of it. But yeah, we all have lots of bills. So, but whatever the case be, work harder, earn more, right? Or smarter, whatever the case be. Mark says he loves Craig because Satoshi works within the law. And the last one from Dennis Lill, millions of transactions for BSV would provide income for miners as all the BTC is parked in ETS if a deal was brokered. I guess I'll read one more. Owning the world's largest exchange that the U.S. can't use. That's a good point. You guys got really good points. All right. That's going to wrap it up for tonight. Thank you guys so much for being here. We'll be back tomorrow. Don't see why we wouldn't be, We'll talk about some other things, maybe some JASMY, maybe some other things. I actually looked at a lot of material that Tokenizer has recently got into. I don't know if you guys, I know some of you guys follow Tokenizer. Have you noticed he's been talking a lot about Casper? His research about Casper has really stood out. I am going to try to get Tokenizer back on the show at some point. Maybe we talk about Casper. I don't know, but he has a lot of research. I at least want to share some of that. So we'll probably talk about some Casper tomorrow. I'll share some of the Tokenizer research. Tokenizer. I know some people say like you always call him Nizer. Okay, whatever. Tomato. But so there's some of that. There's some things about JASMY I want to get back into to point out, not just the typical like rehash and stuff, not like that. And then what was the other thing I was going to mention? Oh, I have an announcement to make before we leave. Excuse me, hold on. We are going to have 2 special guests on the show. So for one, it's going to be the lovely space chick. Howard is going to be on the show. It'll be her first time she's ever on the show. I've been on her show like 2 or 3 times in the past, but I always felt bad I never could have her on the show because the whole thing I was going through with my dad and so on. Didn't want to really schedule at that time anybody to come on and then have something happen. But now, I'm a lot more open to having guests on. So anyway, I did communicate with her. She's going to come on. I believe it's going to be sometime next week. So I have to get with her on what particular date that will be. There's another special guest, and this guy watches our show frequently, as well as recorded content, videos, and so on. His name is not Michael Montclair, believe it or not. It is Michael Middleton. Okay. And he discovered Bitcoin as a BTC in 2013. He accumulated Satoshis in 2014. He states he had life-changing ND on 2/4/20 as BTC implemented the Genesis upgrade. He feels as though that BSV is a second chance, obviously, at Bitcoin. He apparently is doing this thing, which is called 2024 Reborn, Freedom is Rising. He's going to like some of these summits. He said that he might attend and do live updates about the COPA trial. And then he's traveling to London. So, I mean, this guy, I guess, apparently, you know, he did well. So he has the money to travel and so on. But what he's looking to do is to schedule some updates from Acapulco. And he's looking for some ideas in regards to things to talk about and so on. But he's going to be a special guest to share, you know, his crypto journey, if you will, and why he feels as though, you know, or to share like his success, obviously, many years ago, before most of us in regards to BTC, but in particular, why he's so gung-ho about BSV. I think that's really cool to have somebody like that to be on the show and share that. So look forward to that. So 2 special guests, unless for whatever reason, Space Chick can't make it next week. That's a possibility. But anyway, it's either going to be some particular day of the week. So you guys know how it goes, Monday through Thursday, unless for some reason one day gets canceled. But that's what we're going to shoot for. So there's either going to be Space Chick either on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. But for sure on Thursday, the 1st of February, will be Michael Middleton. Okay, so look forward to that. And if anything, smash the like on your way out. And what else you got up in here? Richie Rich, thanks, Max, for great content. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. We did talk about the COPA case, replay Myanmar. And then hopefully she won't talk about Volt. I mean, if she talks a little bit about it, I mean, I can't really hold that up against her. I think she probably will talk about HBAR because she knows that, you know, like both her and I like HBAR. So I imagine it'll probably be something like that. She does cover HBAR. One of her actually most popular videos, it was on HBAR. If you click on the video section and you click on, you know, sorted by most popular, that was one of her best videos. All right. So everything will be chopped up later. There'll be chapters and stuff like that. You got to give me time to sort that out. Smash the like on the way out. You guys have a great night. And before we go, are the Suns still on? I wouldn't mind catching the last bit of the game. All right, let's see here. I think that got finished up. So is Edward Vincent would say, dang it. I'll have to see what happened with that. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Sayonara from the Race Crop Consortium. Let's go. Bye-bye. Make sure you guys welcome Replay Miramar. Okay? Always welcome new people. Have a good one. Bye-bye.